Cece, exploring the Enneagram. It's been suggested to me that I record a few short videos about the Enneagram and related topics. And today I decided to record one such video, and this time about the levels of development that Don Riso mapped out, about how the Enneagram types change in focus and often accompanying behaviour, depending on whether they're in balance or whether they're more average or whether they're not very balanced at all, in the really unhealthy level span. And to me, these levels, they made sense on paper. They explained a lot about how a certain person could be so different, and certain personality types could be expressed so differently in various people. So it did make sense on the intellectual plane, but I couldn't really grasp these differences and descriptions within myself. I couldn't see them in my everyday life in real time. It was like trying to grab a soap in the bath. It sort of just gets away from you. And that went on for, I don't know, a couple of years maybe, until I suddenly noticed that I started seeing this. I started noticing the levels being played out in my own life. And even later, quite recently, comparably, I started looking at how can we do inner work differently depending on which level of development we're currently finding ourselves at. Because we can be told there are like recipes for each type, and we can be told to contemplate our virtue, or to try and emulate the perspectives or even behaviors of our heart point or our point of integration. And if I'm like at level 6 and struggling to even be present in my everyday life, or even in the doing whatever exercises I'm trying, if this is a struggle for me, I'm not going to be able to contemplate this virtue. I'm not going to be able to, in any productive manner, integrate the behaviors or the perspectives of my point of integration. It's not going to work because I'm not accessible to these perspectives at this time. And so I started thinking about this, and I wrote it. It eventually turned into a booklet, an electronic booklet, about how to sort of tailor your inner work to the level at which you're currently finding yourself. And after having written that, someone who read it just said, "Oh, I hope you do run a course on this." And I'm like, I didn't at first get what that was going to look like, because I thought more in the way of teaching the levels as such and the dynamics between them. But then the idea didn't go away that easily. It just sort of stayed in the back of my mind, and one day I just found myself starting to play with these concepts from the booklet and just looking at how would I work with this experientially, because my courses tend to be experiential, which some of you know. And I started working out how we could do exercises, how we could do this in an online setting. But the more I looked into it, and the course basically emerged on its own, I started wondering, because I started out with the really unhealthy levels, and I was like, would this benefit anyone to work with this? Because it was a fair guess that anyone attending the course would not have their centre of gravity in the unhealthy levels, or even necessarily dip into them that often. So would that still be productive to work with? And then as I went upwards in the levels, the same question appeared over and over And I came back to that. Well, if the whole point of the booklet that I wrote is that the merit of catering your inner work to the level that you're at, how does it make sense to make a uniform course for everyone to go through this work on all the levels? It seemed like a contradiction, it seemed like a paradox. And then it was so clear to me that obviously the answer is yes. It does benefit you to look at different levels, even when you're not in those levels, for the precise reason that you're not there, especially the lower ones, because this is the case with any form of inner work. We don't do it only when the caca hits the fan. We don't do it because, something happens and we just plunge into reactivity and then we think, I think I'll sit down and meditate. That doesn't happen because we're not interested at that point. The reactivity takes over and we do something else. So the whole point is to exercise these things, whether it's meditation, whether it's therapeutic exercises that we do. The whole point is to do them while we're sober, while we're not in the reactivity, so that we can then recognize it when we're there, and so that there is something that can peck us on the shoulder and just remind us, wasn't there actually something you could do here? So that's the whole point. And obviously it's the same with the levels. It just escaped me for a while. So I think this course is going to be a really beautiful thing. It is not in my nature to do things half-heartedly, so it's going to go for 10 modules, 10 weeks, and like 2.5 hours each time, and really let you experience these levels within yourself, the perspectives of them, how they feel, what is important on these levels. And this will make it much easier when you're in reactivity, when you go down, to catch yourself, to catch yourself as in seeing it happen, and also catch yourself as in hold yourself, as in meet the ego reactivity and not get swept away by it and not reject it, but rather just take it in and see that's happening and know that you can do something else with it, something different than the ordinary pattern. And that's what this course is likely to give you. So if this appeals to you, please go to the website, it's here, and look at the description, sign up if it's for you, and if so, I'll see you there.
Get up, get a cup of